title and thumbnail should hint at it. Now, this is to give my opinions, and also, this might not be something you would want to watch, because I am going to be judging these augments and affixes. And as you can tell from the title and thumbnail, it's pretty cursed, because I have not seen a good chunk of bad augments and affixes on the Japanese PSO2. There have been a couple, but they corrected themselves and they did better and all that jazz. But looking at the stuff that I've seen recently, and have been seeing, I got opinions. Now, I was super duper curious to how I would react to some of these. And some of these, I'm just baffled at. You'll see it. I did do a test run. I did release a video for members, the first one that I did. But yeah, this is gonna be a first for the public eye. So once again, this video is where I'm gonna be judging and looking at these augments and abilities. Yes, I get it. Some people don't have as much time in all of these things, but at the same time, there should be some coherency and reasoning behind these. And I'm gonna be able to point these things out just by looking at them. Now, if you're not a big fan of these videos, then do not watch this video. This is my last disclaimer and emphasis on that part. So if you don't want to watch the rest of this video, go ahead and leave. If you decide to stick around and watch me react to these, this is on your own accord. Most likely I'm going to suffer because, yeah, it's something. And most likely if I swap between the different cameras where I zoom in on my face and stuff, that means it's pretty bad. But yeah, let's get started. The reason why I'm looking over there too is so I can switch it like that. So the first unit piece. This is a back piece. It's a Trailblazer. So I think it's either the 12-star or 13-star. No, it has to be 13-star. Because only 13-star units can equip the SSA. 12 stars cannot. Looking at it, it got Auto HP Recovery 1. Okay, timed ability wise, I'm super confused about that one. But in terms of the other abilities, it got Grand Spirit, Doom Break 3, and then EX Allies. So, I don't know when this was sent to me exactly, but these are very low in terms of the numbers. I get it, this is something they might have worked with, and this is the only thing that they have, but regardless, this should be a bit higher. They should push the power a bit higher along with all these other stats. Don't get me wrong, a 4 slot you could work with. However, because of SSAs, you may want to try to amp it up to a 5 slot or even a 6 slot. There are formulas out there and there are alternative ways to try to dumb that down and get it to a 5 slot. So the fact that it's stuck at a 4 slot, like, yeah, this is what you're working with. But at the same time, you should push it to a 5 slot instead so you can get a bit more power or PP out of it. Another thing I'm going to have to point out, and this is a big stickler of mine, if you're not going to emphasize on these other goddamn stats, don't even go for them. So in terms of the defense stuff, you shouldn't even go for those. Maybe they weren't really trying to go for those stats, but like if I'm going to emphasize on something, I would want to try to get a good chunk of it. So I would go for like an EX Tierso or a Tierso or anything that can give me attack and PP, because from the looks of it, you got a Grand Spirit in there, so that means you emphasize on the PP gain. And if you're doing that, then like getting Doom Break 3 as well, most likely you're trying to get attack and PP. Now, once again, there's a bit of a leeway with this because if I'm correct, when this was given to me, this was way back then, and it was before episode 6 came out, with glare abilities came out. Maybe they reworked it. But yeah, currently right now, at its state, not the best, but it's not that bad, especially with the SSA. I don't know what class they're playing. I don't know what that does, and I will most likely be looking over on the other monitor, so I'll be looking like this way to start the other monitor to figure out some of these global names. I don't think this is... No, this is global because of that, the spelling. But anyways, very questionable. Could work on this. Let's move on. This one. I think this is a set too that this person was doing. what? I don't even know what the piece is. So, yeah, you can see me stop and stare at this and just think hard on it because it's like, okay. So, attack PP, and then this gives a bunch of stats, and then you got Grant's stamina. Now, this is only at a 4th slot. The problem with, here's my rule of thumb as well. If you'd use a grand ability, you want to do it in a very smart way where you do it through the SAT method, which is special ability transfer method. If you don't know what that is, there's videos for that upper right corner or in the description. Or you don't use this unless you are 100% sure you get to finalize it. Leaving this out of 4th slot pretty much kind of hints at like you kind of are quote unquote done with it. But not only that, the problem is if you move on to some other piece, guess what? You're going to be spending a good chunk of money, either in game or in real life, to get another grand stamina and to put that onto whatever other piece. In all honesty, if this is the same piece, and if this is a 13-star unit, I would have placed an SSA instead, because SSAs are important. From the looks of it, it's an arm. There's a good chunk of SSA abilities for the arms, like the attack boost and whatnot. I would actually take that more than stamina. Depends on what class they're playing. Just by judging this thing, though, it's like, oh yeah, they kind of just did a quote-unquote budget. But at the same time, grand stamina is not like using one of these, once again, is going to fall on the fact that they want to finalize it, but then if they get to work on something else later on, they got to have to redo it and buy another grand stamina, which means you put more money into it. So, not a big fan of this. I don't know what class they're playing exactly, but yeah, like, just seeing this, it's not that great. This one, okay, this one, I'm questioning why the fuck are you emphasizing too much on the HP? Like, don't get me wrong, it's fine, but at the same time, if depending on what your class combination is, and depending on what you are doing in-game, it's like, do you really need this much goddamn stamina? And if I'm correct as well, might be on a Trailblazer as well, 13-star. Skydance Boon, alright, that's great, or Skydance Support. Just having all the stamina, though, it's like, look at your attack. It's not that high. You got a lot of stamina. That doesn't mean jack shit if you don't properly affix it with some other things or you have the right combination to it. Because if they get to hit you hard and you get, like, if they get hit you hard, let's say you're playing as Phantom and they hit you for a whopping 500 despite you having, like, 2,000. They're going to hit you for 500. And then guess what? Another attack is going to hit you and it's going to be 500 as well. So you just lost 1,000 HP. And if you take that time to heal and stuff, that's you taking a bit of time to heal when you shouldn't be doing that, when you should be doing damage and whatnot. There's a lot of situational factors that's going to kick in with this. I don't know what they're doing exactly. I don't know the class combination. But in all honesty, they shouldn't have, like, a low attack and then, like, a high HP. It should be a balance of a number of things, like a good chunk of attack and or HP, attack or PP, attack and PP, attack of HP and a PP. Like this melee power shouldn't be low. It should be like high up there above the 120 mark with a good chunk of HP and a good chunk of PP. But this is just like, it emphasized heavily on the HP, but it neglects the other two. So I don't know what they're doing. Am I going to say this is fine? In terms of the slot numbers, yes, I'll give it a pass. It has an SSA. But all these abilities, on the other hand, it's like, it's questionable. Especially like, actually just staring at this now, I see a Stamina 4 and a Doombreak 1. It's like, why couldn't you go higher? If you have a budget, sure. But like, even then, like, you could try to gamble and try to go for a Doombreak 2. Very questionable piece. Alright, now looking at the sword. Now, this is a Trailblazer, so I'm guessing it's in reference to the 15-star. We call it the Light Stream over on the Japanese side. This thing has, what is it, S1, S2, S3, and it has all these abilities. Why the fuck did you not go for 200? Here's my rule of thumb with going for Precision. Wait, hold up. Precision Will. What the hell is Precision Will? Isn't that critical? Okay, I was a bit confused about that thing. I thought it was the Amp one, but no, Amp is... It will have Amp in its name. But the ability I'm referring to is that Amp is the one where you get 200 attack and all of that. But since this is Precision Will, this is emphasizing on... Trying to find a PSO2 Precision Will. The SSA as great augments. Let me... Well, no. Wrong button. Precision precision will increase critical hit. Okay, so wait, why is this all over the place? What is skillful adept? Increases critical hit. Luminous Grace 2. Alright, so here's a problem with me trying to judge this. I'm not a hunter main. Now, I don't know if those SS... Well, no, hold up. Those SSA sounds okay. Because Luminous Grace 2 should be able to... Let me make sure I'm staring at this right. Increase natural PP recovery by 20%. Skillful Adept is you increasing critical hit rate, and then Precision Will is increasing critical hit damage. Now, I'm not 100% familiar with the Hunter tree, other than, like, you either go the, like, Fairy route and then also go the Tanky route, or doing Just Guard and all that. I don't know if these SSAs are ideal for it. If you want to add your 2 cents about this particular part, let me know in the comments. But in terms of the abilities, it's 2 of them are questionable. Everything else, I can get it. It's not going to hurt you, especially if you're playing on Hunter with this slight minus. Could have went for Odor Reverie instead, especially if you are focused on that. Could have went for like a different soul type instead of Apprentice soul. But in terms of getting that attack, it's fine. Now, the only thing I have a stickler about is like Might 4 and then Mastery 3. Why these 2 specific abilities other than like a Might 6, especially when I don't think dim weapons are around, so it can be excused. But would have gone for a higher grade if possible. If not, then alright. That can be excused. Mastery 3 on the other hand, why the fuck this ability? You're not trying for a weapon especially, you are going to change out of it eventually. With weapons, I would just emphasize on the attack. The only exceptions would be if I know it's finalized and if I want to do something really unique about it. I would not put a Mastery 3 there. What I could do, and if I remember, I think Hunter is able to apply a Gelid. Put a Phrase Decay on that thing. If not, even then, like if the Hunter tree does not give you a Gelid, I would still have a Phrase Decay on this. Because if I go into runs, especially if I am playing on a Hunter, then there's a chance that someone can put a Gelid onto that certain creature or mob or whatever you're fighting against, and I can get that 5% bonus damage. 5% is a lot higher than a flat number. It just depends on what and how you calculate the certain math and what is going on exactly. But I would put a Phrase Decay in there. If they're playing Hero, I'm not, once again, 100% familiar with that one. I don't know if they can inflict Gelid as easily. But even then, Phrase Decay might just be a plus side, especially if you do go into MPA runs. And if there are a good chunk of people who will put Gelid for you. So that is a lot better than a Mastery 3. Like, you're not getting as much stats from Mastery 3. Because it's only like 15... Let me make sure my... What does Mastery 3 do before I start talking? I feel like it only gives you like a 15 or 30%, I mean, plus stat. This does not give me anything. Let me just type it up over in Affix Simulator. Mastery. Mastery 3 gives plus 15 to all. Yeah, that's small. Like, I wouldn't even touch that as much. So, not that horrible. But, I'm not familiar with the Hunter or even the Hero side of things, so someone might be able to correct me. I think this is leaning more on the Hero side, especially looking at these SSAs again. But, like, yeah, that's the only 2 things I would point out. Like, these 2 are very questionable with the Mastery 3 and the Might 4. Once again, understandable, especially if it was before Episode 6 release and they didn't release the Glare types or the dim weapons yet. But this Mastery 3 shouldn't even be there. Now, for this Revelate Liberate Twin Machine Gun. What the hell is this exclusive Lucid? Now, this is either in reference to Hero or Gunner class. Now I need to figure out what this elusive. I know the lifesteal one. That one I'm familiar with. Elusive. What? Lucent? This is for twin machine guns. Only successfully evading an attack with hero sidestep or stylish roll restores an initial 30 PP and an additional 10 PP. Alright, so that is. These SSA looks alright. The other abilities are really questionable. What the fuck am I staring at? Why is the R attack not even high up there? What the fuck is this shit? This is cursed. This is bad. Alright, so rule of thumb, once again, you want to emphasize on the attack, especially if it's a weapon. Second thing is, why the fuck is your stats all over the damn place? What are you trying to do with this thing? Why do I not see, like, at least EX Acto the Soul is... Wait, what's Acto? Acto. Wait, hold up. Acto is not the right thing for it. It should be tier. Why the fuck did they get Acto? Hold up. Let me make sure. Acto should be attack. Why are they getting an S attack on a fucking weapon? Yeah, this is bad. That is the wrong so. They need a tier so. Love Fever. Why are they going for a Love Fever? You should be able to go for Arx Fever or Arx Max. Not this. Well, actually, you shouldn't even have that fucking fever in the first place. Like, Arx Fever is fine if you're trying to get PP as well. If you replace that and put an Arx Max, that's even better. Actually, you should replace the Mutation 2 with an Arx Max or put a Doom Break in there. Spirit 2, Mastery 3. What the fuck is all this? Yeah, this is bad. This is really bad. Like, the SSAs are good. Plus side. Only one of these abilities are fine. Everything else is really questionable, and you place this on a goddamn fucking weapon. If they haven't properly affixed it yet, okay. Hopefully they did affix it. But staring at this by itself is a nightmare. Actually, no, thinking about it, a Love Fever isn't even with a Reveille, so they did affix this. Damn. Yeah, this is bad. This is cursed. This is bad. Why Mutation 2? Why Spirit 2? Why Mastery 3? Why the EX Acto Soul? Like, to understand your weapon, you need to check the tab 2 and stare at these stats. If you don't see any stats in the in the S attack, you shouldn't even try to increase that. Should be tier so. So replace the tier so, like Acto so, with a tier so EX or normal one. For the fever one, I would get rid of it. Maybe try to go for an Arx Max or something. You shouldn't even go for a Mutation 2. What is it? Maybe I would. I don't want to promote this. You shouldn't even use this damn thing. But in all honesty, if I was working with this damn thing in the past, I would actually use a shoot boost instead of one of these motherfuckers. Because there's no point in having Mutation 2 when you're not emphasizing on all these different stats. And Mutation 2, if I remember correctly, is just, like, giving you only what? Mutation 2 only gives you 15 attack for melee, range, and technique, and plus 15 PP. It's like, it's plus 15. There's better options. Like, a Doom Break is a better option than that. Because it can go further. Like, a Doom Break 2. Doom Break 2, just looking over on this other screen. It can give you plus 25. That is plus 10 more. Yes, it's a flat number, but it's better than a fucking 15. And it can give you plus 3 PP. Doom Break 3 gives you a whopping 30. Or you can use a fucking modulator. Use an SAF. Actually, think about it. If this is on a weapon, why not use some of the SAFs? I get it. Maybe it's because of the fact that it's, what, 3, 6, 8 slot. But even then, you might want to try to go and get one of these damn things. Get a weapon that can give you a certain 8 slot. And once again, if you're doing MPA runs, Phrase Decay isn't a bad choice as well, but getting all this damn thing is here. So Precision, Phrase Decay, like EX tier, so that's 3 abilities right there. What is it? You got 2 of these, so we still need to fill it up with 3 other abilities. Arx Max, Modulate, wait. So I said that the soul, getting a Doom Break, or getting a Modulator, getting a Phrase Decay, and then like maybe a pop item like once again, I don't want to promote it, but like looking at this, they should have used that instead. A shoot boost, you can go for the noble boost, the noble shoot one, or the graceful one. But this is no. Like SSAs are fine. And once again, if they were trying to, they already affixed it. I can tell because fever does not usually drop with a fucking Revelate. They had to have tampered around with this. So it's like they gotta rework that crap. This is bad. This is just bad. Next one, Atlas. Alright, so this one has a lot. If I remember correctly, Photon Descent. I'm looking over here. Photon Descent should reduce a lot of PP. Now, it does eat up a 12 wand, eats up a good chunk of PP. Reducing that is fine, but at the same time, you're kind of trading off in terms of that damage. So, is this ideal? I can't really vouch for it as much because I don't main a Twal and I'm not a master a Twal. If you want to put your 2 cents, put it down below. This is heavy on PP reduction. A lot of PP reduction. Is that a good and a bad thing? I have no clue. But they did put some SSA abilities, so I'll give them points for that. Are they good? I can't say. Now, Apprentice Persona Rev Might 4 than the Might Boost. This is okay, because if you look at the wand in the second tab, they do emphasize on S attack or the T attack. They have giant numbers for that. At the same time, why a Might Boost? You could try to push it if it's because it's within your budget, it's on the mission pass. Okay, but there's better options for it. Especially since, once again, those might be a bit better to kind of emphasize on things. But then again, looking at it, this is emphasizing on that melee power. I can't be a huge stickler about it, but once again, I'm not familiar with what SSA you should 100% go for in terms of this and this. There are a lot of situational stuff. If they're going Tekker, I don't know if this is actually good for just a Tekker main. But in terms of a Twal 1 maining, I kind of get it. But at the same time, I'm not going to be that guy that says, oh yeah, this is good sort of thing. I'm not 100% sure with it. If you want to correct me and point it out and give your 2 cents about it, go ahead and put it in the comments. But these ability, this in itself is a question mark. It looks okay, but I, once again, am not a Twal master main. Okay. What the fuck? Hold up, what is skillful? Is that increasing if you're playing as... Alright, so I do have a bit of a... I feel like they're playing on Phantom. Now, the thing I'm going to point out right now for Phantoms is that if you look in your skill tree, and when you look at the certain critical stream PP sort of thing, it's at the very bottom, it should tell you that it can give you PP critical rate. I mean, it will give you a good chunk of PP. I mean, it's going to give you a good chunk of critical rate and critical damage if you have a good chunk of PP on it. And it's going to tell you what the max number is and all that jazz. Why are you increasing that a lot with this? I would not do that because you still need to even out the critical hit and that critical rate. If you play Genshin, for example, I'm bringing it up because that is something to note of. If you play Genshin, you usually want to have a high crit damage percent, but at the same time, you also want to make sure you can crit rate hit them. And with Phantom, I think they have a high crit rate, especially if you do focus on that particular skill. The problem is trying to get that crit damage, which is why you wouldn't really go for the skillful adept stuff. Since this is on Atlas, that S4 is kind of fine. It's a question mark. There might be some alternatives you may want to go for, but S1, S2, S3, you might want to actually get crit damage more than that, or actually get a mix of crit damage and then percent damage, like the Augment intent that increase your damage percent by the number of abilities you have. In terms of these other abilities, the Spirit Boost and the Spirit of 4. Like, don't get me wrong, you do want to emphasize on PP, but with a weapon, you want to emphasize on that attack more than that. The Phase Decay is actually a plus side, but these other two abilities, want to get rid of them, because that's why you have unit pieces. That's why you want to stress that out, stress the PP gain on the unit piece more than on the weapon, because you got 3 pieces. If you're able to get a plus 20 on one of your unit pieces, you do the same formula for the other two. Guess what? You got a whopping plus 60 PP gain compared to that of a weapon. Weapon, try to emphasize on attack. If you want to go for some other stats, is because one, you're using certain abilities that can try to give you a bit of extra stuff, but still emphasize on the attack. You need this needs work, and this isn't as good, especially with that. And once again, I feel like they're emphasizing on the Phantom Rod, especially. If you are, then like keep note of that. If it's on the Force, I cannot vouch for that class because it's been ages since I played it. The last time I played Force seriously was like episode 3 and 4, and I kind of moved away from that. So if you want to add your 2 cents about if they were using a rod for a Force user, go ahead and put it in the comments. Okay, so another TMG, Revelates. Skillful Adept Well. What is this? What is this? What is this? I feel like this is not going to be good. He's going to go... Okay, no, actually, this is a plus side. Actually, where's your S4? Once again, SSAs, I would prioritize those a lot more. Where's the S4? You want an S4 with that. I would avoid the lifesteal one, so don't do that because Skillful Adept will increase your critical hit rate damage percent. I mean, critical hit rate, your damage percent, and then it gives you like that lifesteal. It's like a 3-in-1 package. So you want something that is specific to most likely TMG. You want that S4. Now, every Mark Courage, and I don't know what Mark Courage is. I feel like that's fine if it's what it is. Yeah, it gives you plus 5 PP, so not trying to emphasize on PP, but it is giving you a giant number. Everything looks fine until you look at Precision 1. What the fuck is with that Precision 1 doing there? You should get rid of it. Now, I kind of understand that they might have done some other things as well looking at this, because this looks like it was a drop from Persona, and they just did like an, the SAT method for this. I would say not to do that, because 1, those passes are still hard as hell to go for. 2, this is not as grand. So it's like, yeah, they did the SAT method for this, I can tell. Because, once again, like, you cannot normally transfer this unless you get a mark receptor. Now, if they did do that method, why the fuck did they not correct this? If I want to keep that mark ability, I would have done the normal fixed way, get a mark receptor, and then change that precision. But once again, they also do not have an S4 ability. What I would do with this piece is I would use the S-class ability transfer, get rid of that precision 1, put in an S4, it looks a bit better. Now, once again, they use passes for this, and most likely I might want to change that position will. But it's like, once again, there's some bit of leeway, because if this is what they only had and they were desperate about it, okay, so be it. But at the same time, shouldn't have used passes for this Rivulet, especially if it's not at its max. But it is what it is. They could say otherwise. If you want to suggest a certain other S4 for Gunners, Gunners or Hero TMG mains, you might want to put it down below. Next one. This is fucking low. Why the fuck are they doing this thing? Why the hell is it like this? This is cursed. Because where's the effort? There's none. They only got an S1. Like, most likely if you got the skills, all you needed an S1, S2, S3, but even then you still want the other benefits off of it. And the other problem is you get S1 milliamp, this thing is not even giving you any fucking boost whatsoever. It's completely useless. Because if I remember correctly with the melee amp, let us go to that. Melee amp can only give you a certain percent if you even hit the right number. It's not even at fucking 60. This is a complete waste. This is cursed. What the fuck are you doing? Like, work on this damn thing. Stop being a lazy ass bum and do something with this damn thing. Yes, you don't need to go for the maximum, but at the very least, make it decent. This is a fucking cursed image. I'm not gonna try to explain that shit. You guys understand why I'm gonna be pissed with that. Moving on. Alright, so life... Okay, hold up. It's that elusive one again. I think that's fine. Since it's the... What is it? TMG one. Actually, better yet, I just remembered. Does Gunner need to emphasize on critical rate and damage? Let me know in the comments. But yeah, that looks alright, especially if they don't go for that intent one. Mark Courage, Exceed Energy, Divine Mode. Okay, so, right off the bat, since I think this was like before they even released the Mark thingy for the Mark, what is it? The Exceed receptors and the Divine receptors. Because those, unless they did do some special AC scratch, support scratch item that gives you the divine receptor and the exceed receptor, I feel like this person used the SAP method on this. Now, if they use the SAP method, they originally had Mark, Courage, Exceed, Energy, Divine, Will, Master Soul, and a Mastery 3. 3 of these abilities are fine. 2 of them are questionable. And I would not... Actually, no, scratch that 3. Because Divine Will is the shitty one compared to Divine Order. Divine Order is the one you want to go for because it gives you a lot. If it was just those 3 abilities, I could kind of excuse the Miser Soul and the Mastery 3, but it's not. It's Divine Will. I confused Divine Will and Order at the same time as well. I fucked up one of my own weapons, so... Like, if they didn't know their abilities as much, then, yeah, this was kind of a ugh thing. Now, they did go past 100, but even then, there's like 3 abilities you don't want to go for. And I would just like change that out. I would not really try to get these abilities. I'll go for alternative ones because there's SAFs. And this is what, 3, 6, 7. 7-slot weapon. Might have been easy to try to farm for some stuff. To do this, it's bad just because of these 2. Like, once again, I'm just gonna point this out. Actually, Miser Soul's kind of okay. There's several other abilities that are better than it. The problem I have is Mastery 3 because you're not trying to emphasize on all these different stats, only giving you a plus 15. You want to get rid of that. What you could do, I'm not gonna really stress this out and say you should do it, but what they could do to change that is just put what is it? They could use a good chunk of passes and overwrite that with like a certain add-on ability, but add support item. But yeah, no, I would have not done the SAP method for this in the first place. I would have just worked on it, got some other abilities other than this. Once again, Phrase Decay. Phrase Decay isn't bad because if you decide to go into MPA runs and someone has Gelin, that is something to do. And if you know you're not going to touch any solo content, it's not going to hurt you. Because that is a percent number compared to a flat number. So this one, using the SAP method for that, I do not think it was worth it. If they did it just because, you know, that's all they had and they really desperately needed some upgrades, then so be it. But let's just say it's the plus side of it all. Now we're going back to units. A leg. Revelate. That's plus 10. Why is there a divine receptor on this damn thing? Alright, so in terms of the stats, it kind of meets the attack requirement, or it gives a good chunk of it, which is above 150. These abilities aren't as bad. I feel like they're doing this on purpose and trying to gamble on the future. But at the same time, I would not have a receptor stuck on this damn piece. Veteran Resolve 5 is a huge plus. Actually, like, Veteran Resolve 5, Ether Factor, Doombreak 3, at least so, they kind of emphasize on good chunk of stats. It's not hitting the giant numbers, but, you know, they're doing what they can. They have enough to say to it. I cannot, like, using this is okay. Wouldn't say it's utterly bad, because here's the thing. You can use this to work on a future piece. They can get rid of the Doombreak 3. They have an Ether Factor ready. They got Veteran Resolve 5. If there's a drop or if they make another Veteran Resolve 5 and put some other things on that and then work with this piece, they can try to finalize something. So what they can do with this piece is actually go for like a Doombreak 3, a Veteran Resolve 5. They could go for a Guardian Soul, keep the Ether Factor, maybe swap out the Allies Soul with Astral Soul. There's ways they can work with this piece. So it's not curse. Well, there's only like one ability that's kind of a huge question mark, but they're trying to gamble with the future. I wouldn't really do that just yet, but I can't really say this is utterly bad, because you can still use this piece as it is. People might question why the fuck you put a Divine Receptor, but once again, there's already hints hints that people are putting receptors on units, kind of either fooling people to buy them because they think that there will be that they can put divine abilities on the stuff right now, or they're predicting the future and saying, hey, look, if they have Mark pop abilities. They get it most likely do the same with the exceed and the divine abilities, and then most likely you could put that on units, and it's gonna be something to work for. So not bad, not really atrociously bad, but it has an okay status. Like, I wouldn't really put that divine receptor on it, and this was most likely before episode 6 came out. Now, oh god, another TMG. So where's the S4? Where's the S4? Other than that, well, this is one slight mistake that I see. What the fuck? This is on a TMG? Well. Yeah, where's the S4? Other than that, shit, that is pretty good. Only mistake that I can see is most likely the Divine Will. What I want would be Divine Order. I did that fuck up too, but looking at the total stats over here, it's still plus side. But once again, I might want to get rid of Divine Will, put an S4 ability in there instead. This is not bad, but they might have did the same mistake that I did, so it gets a pass. They just need an S4 as well. Now, Trailblazer. Alright, I tell you right off the bat, this isn't good, because you're not meeting the requirement. Milliamp. Milliamp, you need 60 attack. You want to also hit the 200 attack marker so you can get that additional percent damage. If you're not going to meet that criteria, then go for Augment Will, because that is giving you a percent per slot that you have. So if you go for an 8 slot, it's going to be 8 times 0.5. That's going to be a 4. So they need to swap that out. Now this is Soaring Blades, dual blade. What is 2-edge strike? 2-edge strike increases attack power by 4%, but then take 8% damage while your weapon is drawn. An aggressive will. Okay, that S2 ability is very questionable. Now, I'm not familiar with dual blades, so someone's got Soaring Blades in terms of both bouncer and when it comes to like a twal Soaring Blades, dual blades. Someone's got to have to point out like some other things about this. I don't think that's an ideal one for dual blades. Aggressive will. I think aggressive will is specifically for bosses. No, this increases your attack percent. I might just suggest like the crit damage percent or actual damage. Well, actually this is fine. It's like general sort of go to if you don't have anything else. And it's better than not having it. But the big problem I have is that milliamp. I would not use it. Now, if this is the only thing they have, and they're like, if these two abilities are the only things they have, and they know that SSAs are better than not having SSAs, then so be it. Use what you got. But they need to work on those two. Now, in terms of everything else, this is where I go back into my stickler rule about, like, all these other things. Unless you are trying to emphasize heavily on all these other stats, don't go for them. Get rid of that stamina 4. That's why you got unit pieces to emphasize on that. Noble Might's fine. It's better than a fucking regular Might boost. A Might 4... This is most likely before episode 6 was released, so understandable. They got the EX Acto Soul, that is the right soul to emphasize on S attack. Get rid of that mutation too. There's no need for that, especially if you're not emphasizing all of these other stats. You can see right here, the melee range and tech and that range tech power. It's not hitting any of big numbers. It's not even past like the 50% other than HP and PP. But mutation 2 does not emphasize on HP and PP. Let me make sure I'm right about that. Actually, I think it does emphasize on HP, but it's still a low number. It's only 15 plus, so get rid of that. Like, you get a bit of it because you use EX Acto de Soul. That's okay. Because guess what? Acto de Soul can give you a whopping 35. That is fine. But get rid of these damn two things. You don't need them on a weapon. I would just place... Once again, I'm going to bring up Phase Decay almost all the time, because if you know you're not doing solo content, you might as well have that, because MPAs are going to have someone that's going to put that fucking gelin on them. What else? If you get to write that over, Modulator SAF, Astro Soul SAF, there's like maybe a Centis SAF, like there's better options for this, so get rid of that shit, like, no, just a no. Everything else is fine. This is okay in general. Well, like I said, I can see some leeway with that. Now, Double Saber. I'm not familiar with these things. What the fuck is a Life 5? Hold up. Life 5 adaptation. Oh, that is pretty much vigorous response. Don't do this on a guy. Well, this is why you have units. This is why you need to look at the unit stats. This is how you could try to push for a lot of HP on those units compared to that of a weapon. Weapon, once again, most of the time, you want to attack. If I was trying to hit that requirement, I would also go for some other abilities as well. Actually, you got to be very specific with the certain class combo as well. If they're remaining a 12 only, I don't think by itself naturally it could try to get to a high HP number without augments and abilities. If you did a combination of Hunter and Etoile, that is a different story. You'll be able to see that in action because I have a future video where I displayed this vigorous response, aka Life 5 adaptation, in combat. But I wouldn't do that for the weapon as much. I'm just sitting here thinking, because here's the thing, the thing that I worked with on my particular sword, it emphasized heavily on a lot of things that made me tanky as fuck. So they have a certain goals because of that S5. At the same time, do you really need that as an Etoile main? And do you really want to stress on that sort of thing when you could easily try to dish out a lot more damage? This one can be debated on. Now, once again, this is where I'm going to put my opinion and input. I wouldn't really do this. I would focus on the unit pieces to try to get that attack and HP more than just HP. This thing doesn't even have any sort of damage. It got a minus in damage. So, not the best. Not the stats I would go for on a Double Saber. Now, looking at this is Trailblazer, most likely, it's the 15 star. What's the S3? Where's the S3? And you got range amp. What is this? 7 slot? They might be stuck with whatever they're working with, but once again, where's the fucking S3? I would use the S-class ability transfer and override that stamina 3. Everything else will be fine. Just override that stamina 3. Get an S3. If this is what they are working with, okay. Understandable, but you want to get away from this because anything with the amp ability, you want to make sure you get the most out of that. If you cannot do it, go for an alternative, which is augment intent. If you can't even go for that because it's expensive, find something else that can help you. Like range amp, yes, if this is the only thing and you can get a bit of damage off of it, so be it. But at the same time, you don't want to stick with it if you can't get the most out of it. What is time flow? Time flow. Restore 40% of your mag. Why do you need this? If you are playing as a Phantom, especially, you have access to techniques. You can use the Megaverse or that little ball thing. You see it in my Phantom gameplay. Drop it down, shoot, you instantly heal. You do not need this sort of thing. Like, if you're trying to get lifesteal or an active way to heal yourself, then you would want to go for a different weapon series that can give you that option, like the Atlas EX. It has the S4, it gives you Vampiric Strike, has access to that S4 ability where you can get that, and then you can use that to your advantage, or the Trail, or the, Rivolate. But this thing, no. Just, no. There's alternative ways to try to heal yourself and faster ways to do it. Like, how long? It's every 40 seconds. That's a conditional. You don't want conditionals. You want something to happen because it can happen. Like, yes, it might be able to help you in some tough situations, but there's a conditional to it. There is that 40 seconds. So if I pop down a Megaverse and if I'm standing still and if I can quickly get a shot out, I can heal myself instantly without having to rely on that. And that's only 40% compared to like the full 100%. So yeah, I wouldn't even go for this thing. If this is the only thing they got, so be it, use it temporarily, but get rid of it later on. Would put more of a critical hit damage percent on that, which is like, I think Precision Will 1 or 2. And then for 3, the S3, might want to go for Precision Will 3. Especially if you're doing it on the, on Phantom Rifle. Now, if you're playing this as a Ranger, or you're using this as, well, hopefully you're not using it as a Gunner, because Gunner has to emphasize on that, TMGs. But if you're a Ranger main, I don't think you would want this as well, because the goal is to not get as close as possible unless you have a very specific style in that. But yeah, I would be firing from far away, and there should be some ample time to try to pop like mates and make sure you have the certain arenas so you can do that quickly. So yeah, this I don't think it's good on the rifle in itself. Correct me if I'm wrong. If you want to also add your input, if you know your Ranger rifle weapons, put it down in the comments. But yeah, no, just everything looks fine except that other than that talk about the SSAs in terms of abilities, everything looked fine except that stamina 3. Get rid of that shit. This is why you have units. This is why you put and max out those certain units with that same formula to emphasize on that particular stat. Yes, it's not a percent number, but I would rather do that on my units and try to stack it, because 3 times whatever number you're going for, like let's say one of your unit pieces have like 200 HP, times that by 3, you got 600 HP from your units alone, if you do the right augments and abilities. I would put a phrase decay in here, actually. Especially if you're doing Phantom Rifle, phrase decay, because you have an ability to put on a gelin. Alright. Third one, this is an Atlas TMG. Where the fuck are the other SSAs? I will always bring this up. Okay, so, yeah. Actually, what the fuck? Oh, okay, I see what they could have done and how they got the range amp. But still, they hit the 200 mark. Good. But at the same time, where's the other 2 SSAs? You kind of sacrifice like SSAs for all these flat number stuff. I would get rid of that Mastery 4. What the is that a Doombreak 2 down there? It looks like Doombreak 2 down there. So, I'd get rid of the Mastery 4 and then the Doombreak 2. Replace it with SSAs. I would then get rid of the S1 range amp and then replace it with Augment Intent if you have it. If not, then I guess you can use it, but you're not going to get the most out of it, because once again, you want to hit that 200 number so you can get an additional, what, 2%? 3%, so it can become a 5%. Let me type in amp again. Let me see. So if you hit the 200 marker, it's going to get additional 2%. You are getting 1% for every 60. So what, 60 times 3, 180. So they already got 3% for hitting that 180 mark. They get additional 2% if they go 200 plus. So yeah, this range amp is making you sacrifice these SSAs. I would not do that. SSAs are just handy. They're better. So I would do that. Get rid of the Mastery 3 and the Doombreak 2. Other than that, everything else can stay. But the problem is, if you do add a SSA for S2 and S3, you got to change that S1. Especially if you're not getting the most out of it. You would most likely go for, once again, Augment Intent or some other alternative that would help you. But yeah. I mean, you can keep it. I think you still get 180 off of this. No, you might actually decrease and you won't be able to hit the 180. So that means you need to swap out of that. But yeah, that, like, it looks fine, but at the same time, you sacrifice 2 SSAs for that. I'm not a big fan of that. It's like SSAs are good because they can tamper to your style. And there's a good amount of options for that, so I wouldn't do that. Now, Officia, back piece. Let's see, Crack 5, Runa Glare, EX Alley, so Mana Revs, Grand Stamina, Doombreak 3, Red Resolve 5. I cannot complain about this because they already hit the certain number. It went past the 150 mark. Turns up ahead, putting a Grand Stamina in there, obviously, it may not be ideal, but at the same time, this thing can be used for future usage. And, it did a mix of things, so it gave you a lot of melee power, but also gave you a good chunk of HP. Most likely it gave a good chunk of PP as well. So it's not horrible. And in all honesty, if I was to use this for future usage, like making Guardian Soul and all that, I can. Because it already got Mana Rev. And then it also has Crack 5 and Veteran Resolve 5. What it can then do is actually work with some other pieces and just make a Crack 5 and a Veteran Resolve 5. Have that somewhere in my formula, use a 4th slot. And then, like, my Mana Rev's already covered. The only thing I still have to do is most likely put, like, the glares and stuff. It might take a while for you to actually toy around with this one and get it to work to that sort of upgrade, but this is pretty high up there. I cannot really complain about it. It's not cursed. It fits the requirements. So, yeah, this isn't that cursed. It's not bad. Once again, I can see why some people might say it's bad, but they already met the attack requirement, so I'm not gonna bitch about it. And the last thing we'll look at is another double saber Revelate weapon. And what the fuck was your S4? What the fuck are these? Okay, this is really fucking cursed. Why these damn abilities? 1. SSA abilities. You want them. The S4 gotta be somewhere. They did emphasize on the attack plus side, but at the same time, what the hell's with the toughness 1, reflex 1, and the stamina 2? You should, I think around this time, be able to put a phrase decay and whatnot. There should be some abilities that should be able to give you a fucking phrase decay. I'd rather take that, especially if I'm only doing MPA runs. Another thing is, why Luther Soul? Luther Soul should be emphasizing on T attack. This is an S attack weapon. Why the? Well, actually, it does both. This isn't the highest though, if I remember correctly. Let me look at Miser and see what that is like. Yeah, why the 20? Why not a 30? Why do you put Luther Soul? You could put that Ultimate Quest Rockbear Soul in there. You could put Acto D Soul in there. Why a Luther Soul with a weapon that is specifically S attack? Then why the fuck do you have a Stamina 2 and a Mastery 3 when you're not even trying to emphasize on them? You have units to try to emphasize on these other stats. So, like, this needs a huge rework. Might 6 and the Graceful Might, fine. Everything else, what the fuck? Are you just lazy enough and you didn't want to work on these things and just put them on? Come on, SAFs on weapons are a thing and they can easily help you get through this threshold. It might be a bit costly, but, you know, work and try to farm for it and try to get it. There's methods to try to get these weapons to drop out of 8 slot. Sometimes some people would just sell these things and not find a good chunk of value out of it, but, you know, one's junk is another's treasure. Yeah, that's it. So that's it for this video. I think how long is this damn video where I go into stuff? Took almost a fucking hour, so I'm gonna upload this as it is. This is part 1. Note that there's more of these. That's all I gotta say. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, put it down below. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.